Welcome to Strategies, where we offer tailored services and campaigns for authors, publishers, and professionals. This is a pitching tutorial. My name is Jared Kuritz, and I am the President and CEO of Strategies Public Relations. For over 20 years, Strategies has worked with domestic and international authors, publishers, and professionals on literary and publishing development, business modeling, and public relations and marketing. For more information about us, please feel free to visit www.strategiespr.com. Let's talk about pitching do's and don'ts. Do use your title business model to determine your promotional activities. Some of you may be asking yourselves, what is a title business model? Simply put, that is answering three basic questions. What do you plan to create? How do you plan to deliver it? And how do you plan to capture value from it? So let's use a basic example and apply that to our promotional activities. Let's say you are a realtor in San Diego, California, and you write a book titled 10 Questions for Every First-Time Home Buyer. You're using that book as a marketing tool. You plan to deliver it directly to people, either through your website, giveaways, handing it to people, and so forth. It's a marketing tool. So what you want to capture value from that, you want to build a database of potential home buyers and sellers. You want to build your own credibility and veracity as a realtor who's written a book, but you're really not worried about royalties from retail sales. So if you look at different types of promotional activities and you apply your business model to those promotional activities, you'd be able to say to yourself, well, does national TV make sense? Probably not. Do regional or national newspaper articles make sense? Probably not. But do targeted blogs for your geographic area make sense? Sure. Local TV? Absolutely. Local radio? Absolutely. So as you can see, if you determine what your overall business model is for your book in terms of what you plan to create, how you plan to deliver it, and the value you plan to capture it from it, then you'll be able to quickly identify what promotional activities do and don't make sense. Conversely, don't just do activities that sound or look good on paper. Keep in mind that staying busy is not necessarily being effective. So make sure that everything you do comes back to your overall business model and if it makes sense towards how you want to capture value from your book. Do create a universal catchline, media bio, and media summary. A catchline is a one-sentence description of your book, no more than 30 words. A media bio is a 3 to 5 sentence bio specifically related to the author about the book and or the subject matter. A media summary, again, is a 3 to 5 sentence description of everything someone needs to know about the book. The idea is to be able to give these three items both in a pitch and or directly to a host so that they know everything they need to know about your book. It's unfortunate but true that many, many hosts never take the time to even open a book before they interview an author about the book or a related subject matter. Don't assume people will read the book or do their own research. This is how and why you have to do it for them. Identify outlets that directly connect with your target audience. This seems obvious, but many of us will pitch outlets that don't necessarily reflect our target audience for our book. So we want to make sure that when we're pitching media, we pitch the ideal media that actually speaks to our target audience. That means ahead of time, you want to identify who your target readers and your target buyers are and pitch accordingly. Don't take a shotgun approach to pitching. Again, pitching 5 outlets really, really well versus pitching 50 outlets with a shotgun approach is going to net you far better results, and you're going to be able to foster better relationships with those 5 targeted outlets. Do your homework and research about who and what you are pitching. You should know the type of people that read a blog that you're pitching. You should know the type of blogs that they produce. You should know the types of subjects they like to cover. Do your research ahead of time so that you can personalize your pitches. Don't send impersonal pitches. Now, don't mistake this for not sending a formulaic pitch. You can have a formulaic pitch that has your catch line in it, has your media bio in it, has your media summary in it, but the first couple of lines of every pitch should be personalized to the person to whom you're pitching. Pitch what value is in it for the outlet or contact. Why would they want to share this with their readers? How will this keep their listeners tuned in? Think of it in those regards when you make your pitch. Don't pitch the book. Unless you're pitching the book for a book review, don't pitch the book to media. Pitch a hook, pitch themes, pitch topics that are within the book, but don't pitch the book itself. The unspoken exchange and expectation from media, for the most part, is that they will interview your author or write a feature article or write a blog. And in exchange for that exposure, in exchange for the quality of content you give them for their listeners or readers or general audience, they will mention your book. But don't pitch the book, pitch the hook. Know your goals and CTAs when you're pitching media. What do you want the takeaway to be? What do you want the host to mention? What do you want the listener to do? Do you want them to visit your website? Do you want them to download something for free? Do you want them to subscribe to your blog? Figure out what your goals and CTAs are before you start pitching media so that you can include that in your pitch. Don't assume the exposure is enough. Simply being on a radio show, and I hear this all the time from my clients, oh, I've done 50 radio shows and I haven't sold any books. And my response to that has always been, well, what was your CTA for the host? What was your call to action for the host? What were your goals of being on radio? How did you steer the conversation back toward your goals or your calls to action? And a lot of times I get a blank look or a shoulder shrug. Just being on the radio show isn't enough. Just getting the great blog interview isn't enough. You have to have an action that offers a measurable response so you know whether or not that exposure was worth it. So you have to have a goal and a call to action in mind. Do set benchmarks, engage your time and financial investment against results. This goes back to that old adage that staying busy isn't necessarily, working smart versus working hard. You really, if you're going to do an activity, you set a goal, you set benchmarks for that activity, and you gauge whether or not you're achieving those things. Okay, I'm going to give my real estate book away for free on my website. I'm going to post it all over social media in order to try to build up a mailing list or a potential client list of people who are interested in having me buy or sell their homes that I can contact over the next couple of months and add to my mailing list and reach out to on occasion. Well, if you're doing activities to build that list and that list isn't growing, then change up your activities or change up your approach to those activities. But have benchmarks in place and gauge your results based on the amount of time and money you're putting into it. And conversely, don't keep repeating the same promotional effort if it's not achieving valuable results. That's great that you can get on a ton of radio interviews, but if your goal is to sell books or your goal is to get people to visit your website or your goal is to get people to take some particular other action and those results aren't being met, those goals aren't being met, then don't keep being on the same radio, or at the very least, adjust your approach to those radio interviews to make sure that your calls to action are, clearer to the audience, or perhaps, there's better incentive for them to do it. But don't just keep repeating the same thing over and over again. Let's talk about tips and tricks for garnering media exposure. General tips and tricks. Make a personal connection. Whether it's a radio show host, a blogger, or a reviewer, look them up, see what other things they've done, see what other articles they've written, see what other blogs they've written, see what other interviews they've conducted recently, and to reference them in your pitch. Make it personal. Make it clear to them that you have looked them up and that you have made an effort to make a connection with them. Offer value. What's in it for them? Why would their audience want to stay tuned in? What are you going to educate them about? What are you going to entertain them with? What type of information are you going to provide outside of the scope of the book that is going to keep their audience tuned in? Pitch themes, topics, and hooks, not the book. I don't care whether it's fiction or nonfiction. Every book has themes, topics, and hooks beyond the book that you should be pitching. And then your expectation and your kind of give and take with the media that's exposing your book and giving you that opportunity, giving you that platform, is that they will mention the book, or you can casually bring it into the conversation, but the exposure has to be about more than the book. Pitch in the alternative. Oftentimes someone might say to you, well, we just had someone on that topic. Well, make sure you have another topic available, or offer them something other than just an interview. Maybe you want to offer them, think about it for a blog as an example. A blog is a great place to offer a multitude of options to the blogger. You can offer them the ability to receive a complimentary copy of the book for review consideration. You can offer them the opportunity to publish a bylined article. You can offer to allow them the opportunity to do an interview with the author. You can offer them the opportunity to run giveaways of the book, which means they're going to be mentioning the book to their audience and giving some background on the book and likely giving a link to the purchase page of the book. So you have a lot of different options. So when you're pitching outlets, think how you can pitch in the alternative. Acknowledge the value and interest to the audience. This is a big thing in your pitches. Hey, your audience would be interested in this because of X, Y, and Z. That's telling the media outlet that you're aware of who their audience is and that you're making an effort to connect with that audience to meet what their goal is, which is keeping their audience engaged. Be flexible. I cannot stress this enough. Especially if you're pitching radio, TV, podcasts, and things like that. If you turn around and say to them, I'd love to be on your show, blah, blah, blah. And they say, well, we're booked out for the next 6 or 8 or 10 weeks. Then no problem. Please keep my information. And if you happen to have a last minute cancellation, I'd be happy to jump in. That type of flexibility is fantastic. You can offer similar flexibility when it comes to byline articles and so forth. I've got some great articles here. I'd love to pitch you. Well, we've got all our articles, our editorial calendar is filled up for the next 6 months. That's great. If someone doesn't deliver on time or you need an extra article, please feel free to let me know and I'm happy to provide one. So as flexible as you can be, the more flexible you can be, the better. Be creative and think outside the box. Remember, you shouldn't just be pitching the book. Yeah, if you're pitching reviewers, you're pitching the book. And you're pitching the themes and the topics in the book, not just the book, even when you're pitching reviewers. But I'll give you an example of an author I worked with. I worked with a historical fiction author, and he was also an avid gardener. And I always ask my authors to give me a list of 20 things beyond the book that they are passionate about or can speak to with some level of expertise. And one of those things was gardening. So I actually pitched a bylined article about gardening by him to a pretty big gardening publication. And they loved it and they published it. And at the bottom of the article, it said, thus and such author is also thus and such is the author of the blankety blank series. To find out more, visit his website at blanketyblank.com. And that was all. It was just the byline at the bottom of the article that was all about gardening. Well, guess what? A lot of people who garden also like to read. It's kind of like, there's a connection there. Well, we probably got more interest and more clicks on his website that entire year from that one article than from nearly any other activity we did. So understanding who your author is and the things that they can speak to outside the scope of the book is really important because that gives you a great opportunity to make connections with audiences beyond the book, because all you're really looking for is a simple mention of the book when people are engaged. If somebody reads an article by your author and really likes what it says and likes the voice and the way it's written and the subject matter of it, At the bottom, it says that they're an author of a book series or a single book. Guess what? A good percentage of those people who enjoyed the article are going to go look up that book. So again, be creative and think outside the box when you're doing pitches. Target high and low hanging fruit. I kind of equate pitching media to applying to colleges. You apply to your safe schools. That way, you ensure that you have a choice of, you have at least one school you can go to for college, and then you apply to your reach schools. And it's the same thing with media. Apply to your, pitch the smaller radio shows, pitch the smaller blogs with smaller UVMs, unique visitors per month, but then pitch the big ones too. But there's nothing wrong with low hanging fruit. Remember, all exposure is basically various forms of word of mouth. It's a little less personal than word of mouth of your best friend recommending something to you, but still at the end of the day, it's word of mouth. And last but not least on the list is change it up. It's okay to pitch the same outlets over and over again every month. And I wouldn't pitch them more than once a month. But when you do pitch them, change your pitches up. Change your suggested article topics, change up your suggested segment topics, change up what you're pitching so that they don't just delete your email. Hey, now that it's October, I have some different topics I could cover for you. Or, now that it's tax season, what about if I came on and talked about X, Y, and Z? Just change it up, but pitch consistently. All right, let's talk about pitch crafting suggestions. My first suggestion list is for radio shows, local TV, and podcasts. Get to know the show. Know what the show is about. Know the subject matter they like to talk about. Know whether they're serious or humorous. Understand what they're looking for. Get to know the host. Again, get to know the personalities of the people you're going to be pitching. Pitch a variety of segments. Your segments should be single sentence pitches. Hey, I'd love to do a segment on this or this or this or this. Maybe 3 to 5 different segment topics. Pitch a hook, not the book. The segment topic shouldn't be 5 reasons people want to buy my book. If your book is a nonfiction, let's say a Y over, young adult crossover fantasy book, you're not pitching that book. You're pitching things like, 5 most common, settings used in movies stolen from books. Make it a trivia thing, or it may be how to get your kids more interested in reading, or it may be how to develop characters that are great for TV and they're both great for print and film. Pitch something outside the scope of it, or the top 5 sci-fi movies you never knew came from books, or something like that. Something that's engaging for the audience that you're pitching, that doesn't have specifically to do with the book, but that they'll reference your book. Keep the pitch short. Your entire pitch, when most of these are done via email now, if not all of them, should be able to be on the what we call the upper fold, the top half of a page, so that people don't have to scroll down too far. These pitches should be short, to the point, and sweet. Offer producer sheets. Let's say you had 5 different segment topics, and one of them was, 5 ways to get your kids interested in reading, 5 movies you never knew came from books, and and on and on. Let's say you offered 3 to 5 different segment topics. Don't include the producer sheets in your pitch, but have them available when they ask for them, and also let them know you have them available when you give them your pitch. A producer sheet is the written out 5 bullet points that you would talk about in your segment. So if your segment pitch is 5 ways to get kids interested in reading, then your producer sheet, the topic is 5 ways to get your kids interested in reading, and then 1 through 5 are written out on that producer sheet. So any topic you pitch, make sure you have a producer sheet already prepared, and in your pitch, let them know, hey, I have producer sheets available for any of these topics if you're interested. And that's what you put in your initial pitch. Have your content ready. Basically what I just said. Offer your producer sheets and make sure you have them written. Use your assets. You should be using your catch line, your short bio, and your short summary in all of these pitches. And then offer giveaways. I mean, these places love to be able to give product away because, again, it engages their audience. So you can offer, and think about how little that costs you. If I told you that you could do radio, TV, or a podcast for the cost of $4 or $5, it would be totally worth it to you, especially ebooks. But be willing to offer giveaways. Yeah, I'd love to come on your radio show and talk about X, Y, and Z. And if you want, we can give 5 books away to your listeners, blah, blah, blah. Whatever it happens to be, something along those lines, but always be willing to give them away. Let's talk about pitch crafting suggestions for blogs. Again, get to know the blog, get to know the blogger. What do they write about? What topics do they like to cover? Where do they go to school? There's usually a bio for the blogger. Get to know them and try to make a connection. Even if it's, I just read your blog 2 weeks ago on the topic of blank. I thought it was really interesting because blank. That can be your opening sentence right there. Just make a personal connection. Provide a variety of options. I mentioned this a little earlier, but when you're pitching blogs, there's a lot of different ways you can interact with the blog. You can ask them to do a review of the book. You can offer a pre-written review of the book. You can ask them to do an author interview. You can offer them a pre-written author interview. You could offer them a bylined article on a particular topic. You can offer them to do book giveaways. There are tons of different ways to engage with blogs. Have your content ready. Whatever you offer, make sure you already have it ready. So if they say, yes, send it to me, you're not scrambling to produce it. Again, use your assets. That's your short bio, your short summary, and your catch line. Again, offer giveaways. Hey, if would you like to offer 5 free ebook copies of the book for your readers? Offer reciprocal support. Yeah, I'd love to, if you want to interview me for your blog, I'd love to interview you for my blog. If there's anything you want me to feature on my blog or on my social media, I'd be happy to do that. So, reciprocate the effort. Make advertising your last resort and be creative if you do it. With blogs, a lot of times you can advertise on them, which is not necessarily a bad choice. I personally would prefer to advertise my book on a blog that specifically caters to my target audience than on KDP, where I'm competing with literally millions of other titles. But I don't want to do a banner ad on a blog because we are all naturally kind of trained to tune out advertising. But I'd love to have a sponsored article on there, just like a sponsored blog on there. So it just showed up in the feed like everyone else's blog. So if I am going to pay for advertising and they want, a couple $100 for a banner ad, I'd be like, hey, instead of a banner ad, can I do a bylined article on thus and such topic? They're going to love that more too, because it's content for their website. So be creative if you're going to pay for advertising and what you ask for, because you want to get the best possible bang for your buck. And a banner ad is not great because people tune them out, but a byline article is fantastic. So let's talk about pitch crafting suggestions for print and online print versions. Well, first, let me clarify that an online print version is exactly what it sounds like. It's the online print version of a print publication. So Redbook Magazine, Redbook Magazine online, People Magazine online, Wall Street Journal newspaper, Wall Street Journal online. Now, obviously, the online versions are much more robust because they don't have print limitations, size limitations, space limitations, and so forth that come with print publications. As you've heard me say before, get to know the publication, get to know the audience of the publication. That helps you craft your pitch. Dear so-and-so, because you write about X, Y, and Z, I think your audience would be very much interested in hearing about this because they are well-educated and interested in these types of topics. Know your ask. What are you asking for from the print publication? It's very similar to a blog. Do you want them to do a feature article? Do you want them to interview the author? Do you want to publish a bylined article? What's your ask? Have your content ready. Again, whatever your ask is or whatever your offer is. If you're going to offer to do a byline article on a particular topic, or you're going to offer to provide something, make sure you already have it ready. Use your assets. Again, your short bio, your short summary, and your catch line are going to be critical in almost all pitches you make and will be used in almost every pitch you make. And just like blogs, make advertising your last resort and be creative. Same thing. I'd much rather pay for a sponsored article that people are not going to automatically tune out, that allow people to hear my voice and get to know my personality, and then has a little byline about my book at the end of it, than paying for a banner ad. Pitch crafting suggestions for national TV. Target the correct producer. When Oprah used to have her mainstay show, she had 30, it was roughly 38 producers. They covered a variety of different topics, and each producer specialized in probably 1 to 3 topics. So the producer you pitched on one topic would not be the producer you pitched for a different topic. So make sure you're pitching the right producer. Offer a variety of options. You know, what can you do on national TV? Can you speak to what topics can you speak to as an expert? Are you willing to debate certain topics? What are some of the feature segments you can come on and do that are of national interest, but offer a variety. Also offer a variety of topics. With national TV, for the most part, you want to be pitched as an expert or someone who comes from, has a polarizing opinion. And you want to make sure that you own the topics that you're pitching, meaning that you can speak to them with great passion and or expertise. Remind the producer as appropriate and regularly. So with national TV, what you really want to do is become a go-to person on a particular topic or topics for that producer, so that if things come up, they'll contact you. There's really 2 different ways of positioning yourself for national TV. You pitch yourself as an expert and you pitch a couple of segments, topics. So when you re-contact producers on a regular basis, maybe once a month, you remind them of your area of expertise. I'm an expert on, raising troubled adolescents. And you remind them that you're an expert on that. So you can come on anytime to discuss that. And then you also remind them of pitch topics that you can cover within that expertise or within that field. And you rotate those pitch topics. And then in between, anytime a topic comes up that you would be a good fit for, you can also pitch the producer. So unfortunately, let's say there was a massive bullying event that happened at a school. You could it makes national news. You contact the producer and you say, hey, just a reminder, this is my expertise, and I can come on and talk about this if you want. So you pitch them regularly to remind them of your area of expertise. You pitch them regularly with a change up in the feature segment topics. And then if something comes up that you would be a good fit for, you pitch them to remind them you're a good fit for that as well. Have B-roll available. That's sample footage of you on TV, even if that means you need to get on local TV and do a couple of segments. If you're going to be considered for like a feature segment on, let's say, 60 Minutes or Nightline or what have you, they're going to want to see that you have experience on TV, or it's at least going to help you. They can demonstrate that you have experience on TV, because those are more in depth. If you're going to go on as a talking head and just debate someone on a topic and that sort of thing, they're less concerned with that, but it's still good to have sample B-roll available. Have your producer sheets ready. Whatever segment topics you pitch, again, make sure you have the fully written out producer sheets for every one of those. And then, as always, use your assets, which means your media bio, your media summary, and your catch line. Pitch crafting suggestions for trade reviews. First and foremost, submit trade reviews correctly. Trade reviews, timing-wise, need to be submitted about 3 to 4 months ahead of publication. They want specific information provided to them that they have on their websites, usually in terms of like the book annotation information. They'll dictate the specific number of copies they want. It's usually somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 to 3. And then sometimes they have a specific person that you mail different books to based on genre, and they'll have different locations. Now that a lot of people work remotely, they have different locations that you would ship those books. So make sure you submit correctly. Number 2, use your assets. Again, that's your media bio, your media summary, and your catch line. Tell them what you want them to know about the book. um, I subscribe to the extra copy rule. If they ask for 3 copies, I send 4. If they ask for 2 copies, I send 3. And I always acknowledge the fact that I've done that. Hey, I know you asked for 2 copies, but I included a third just in case you wanted to hold on to one for yourself, or you felt there may be more than one reviewer who may be interested in reviewing this. A lot of times the way they work is that for trade reviews is that they come into a central location and then they'll send out a note to, and this is again where your book summary comes in. They'll send out a note to a bunch of their reviewers and say, hey, we have a new book on, here's 5 new books we have, here's what they're about. Is anybody interested in reviewing any of these? And people will say yes or no. And that's a lot of times what initiates the opportunity for your book to get reviewed is that initial outreach to see if any of the reviewers they have are interested in your book. And that's why you have to have such an awesome short bio, because they're not going to cut and paste a super long bio about your book. But you have an awesome short bio that's super engaging, and you're hoping that when people are given the opportunity to read it based on that short bio or short summary, that it is really captivating. And then don't bug them. Trade reviewers do not like to be bugged. Don't write them and say, hey, just want to make sure you got this. If you want to make sure they got it, track the mailing. But they really don't like to be bugged. And I truly believe that if you bug them, it reduces the likelihood of your book getting reviewed. Pitch crafting suggestions for secondary reviewers. Secondary reviewers are basically all reviewers other than trade reviewers. They're people that you can send to in advance of publication, upon publication, and after publication of your book. Really get to know your author. Ask your author for a list of 20 things that they're an expert about or can speak to with passion. If you're the author, take the time to write that list down, because you're going to identify other media outlets that are going to be a great fit if you do that you would not have ever even thought of for your book. Be creative in what you pitch. Again, it shouldn't be about the book. It should be about themes. It should be about topics. It should be about hooks. It should be about anything other than the book that's related to or relatable to the book. Be creative on who you pitch. So I'll give you an example. If I am pitching the LA Times, and the LA Times obviously has a book review section and they have book reviewers. Yeah, I can pitch my book for a book review there, but I can also pitch my book to a reporter and or to an article editor that writes on topics related to my book. And I can pitch them something completely different. Hey, I'm an expert on thus as such. I'd love it. Let me know if you need any commentary on this, that, or the other thing, because they'll say, if they're writing an article on let's go back to our example of our realtor author for a minute. If our realtor author has written that book and they want that book to get a little bit of visibility in the LA Times because they work in the Southern California marketplace, they can pitch the LA Times real estate editor and say, hey, if you need someone to offer some expert commentary on the housing industry, the lending industry, whether we're in a buyer or seller's market, blah, 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 please feel free to reach out. I'm happy to answer all questions related to real estate. And you can make that pitch to them. So they say, yeah, we need a 2-sentence quote on blank. So you'll give them the 2-sentence quote, and it'll say the quote, and then it'll say, Southern California realtor and author of, and it'll give the title of your book. Hey, guess what? That's great exposure for your book. Someone sees you as an expert. The LA Times has tacitly endorsed you by quoting you, and then it mentions your book. So there's a lot of different ways you can get exposure. You could also pitch the real estate editor of the LA Times with the book and say, hey, I see you're the real estate editor of the LA Times. I've read a couple of your recent articles on blank and blank. They seem to make a lot of sense. I'd love to send you a complimentary copy of my book that talks about 10 things every first-time home buyer should ask, or should know. And then you can and to get your opinion of it and see if you'd be interested in providing a review on Amazon or something like that, whatever it is, know what your ask is. But again, you can be creative in who you pitch and think outside the box. It's not just about book reviewers. Really get to know the publication and the readership. I mean, I can't stress this enough. If you can make a good argument in your pitch, and it's only one sentence, of why their readership would be interested in hearing from you and hearing about what you're offering, that's a huge step in the pitching process. And I strongly recommend you take the time to do that. Pitch crafting suggestions for POP reviewers. These are point of purchase reviewers, so your Amazon reviewers. Really, this is less about crafting the pitch to them than it is about accessing them. So use your social media to solicit interest and collect emails for people who might be interested in reviewing your book. Use your blog to do the same thing. Use your tools. Get that book summary, media summary, and catchline out there as much as possible. Have your friends put it out on their social media, maybe linking back to one of your posts about giving copies of the book away to people who are willing to write honest reviews on Amazon. Partner with existing audiences. Again, this is a great way to reach out to bloggers, and you can reach out to bloggers and say, hey, I'd love to get some reviews for my honest review. Always use that phrase, honest reviews. I'd love to get some honest reviews of my book. And because it's on the subject of blank, blank, and blank, and your audience is interested in blank, blank, and blank, I would love to offer you 20 copies to give away to your readers. And I would just give you I'll just give you the ebook gift codes off of Amazon, and you can run whatever giveaway you want, or you can give one away a day for 20 days or however you want to do it. But I'd love to give the opportunity to do that. That's great exposure for your book. It's great exposure for the blog because they are able to give things away for free. And it's a win-win for everybody. So partner with existing audiences. Don't necessarily always worry about creating your own. Partner with fellow authors. Look up other authors that are in your genre and say or in complementary genres and say, hey, I'd love to interview you for my blog if you're willing to reciprocate. I'd love to mention your book on my blog and social media if you're willing to reciprocate. Truly network. I mean, there are so many authors out there that are willing to do that. And if it's about getting point of purchase retail reviews, you say to the fellow author, hey, look, I'd love to give away 20 copies of my ebook to your readership for free, and ask them to do a complimentary blog, and they'll love it because you're giving away stuff for free through your website or through your blog or through your social media. How about it? And I'll do the same thing for you if you want. Use the Amazon top reviews list. So they have Amazon, if you go to Amazon, has a list of their top reviewers by genre and in general. You can literally go, and if you click on the bios of those reviewers, about half of them have contact information, or you can look them up on social media and you can reach out to them and ask them if they want a complimentary copy of your book for review consideration. These are very influential reviewers because they've made that top 1,000 list on Amazon in terms of reviewers. But that information is right there on Amazon for you to reach out and do that. And then be willing to give a lot of copies away. I cannot express this enough. If your ebook costs you nothing to give away, and most people are more than happy to get a complimentary copy of the ebook gifted to them. So I would strongly recommend that you give as many copies away of your ebook as you want in order to get point of purchase reviews, because point of purchase reviews are by far the most important foundational component to have for a book after you have a well-produced, good-looking, well-edited book, because they are the most influential decision maker for a consumer. Think of yourself. When you go to Amazon and you're deciding whether or not you're going to buy something, you look at how many reviews a product has, you look at how many good reviews it has, you look at how many bad reviews it has. So it's human nature. So building up your point of purchase reviews is generally the first step you should do from the point of publication. So let's talk about effective calls to action. Effective calls to action. They should be predicated on the capture value portion of your business model. Remember, our business model is, what do we plan to create? As an example, we plan to create an audiobook, an ebook, and a print book. How do we plan to deliver it? Well, we plan to do We plan to deliver that book through traditional retail distribution, retail sales. We plan to maybe deliver that book through direct marketing by hand delivering it, giving it to family and friends, or giving it to potential customers or clients. We may even do specialty market sales, bulk order sales. All of these are different ways you can deliver a book. Well, and what value do we want to capture from that? Look, primarily we want to capture value from royalty, from sales, or maybe we want to, like with our realtor example, we want to build our potential client list. So you need to decide how you want to capture value from our product. And then ultimately, it's going to dictate the type of calls to action you want to make. So if your goal with a particular media, exposure is to get reviews of your book, then you may want to say, hey, get a free copy of my book here. And you drive them to a landing page on your website where they can put their email address in, and you'll send them a complimentary copy of the book. And that way you can follow up with them and solicit a review. Perhaps you want them to just be engaged with you, and you want to build your social media numbers to build your platform as an author, because you're eventually trying to get traditionally published, or you already are traditionally published, and you want to be able to build your social media numbers so that the traditional publisher gives you a bigger advance next time. So maybe you'll run a contest giveaway of the book. Maybe you'll solicit people to ask you questions on your website. Maybe you want them to check out your other books. People love taking quizzes. So maybe you have to take a quiz, and in order to get the results of the quiz, they have to put in their email address. So you build up a mailing list. I've got a lot of children's book authors that offer free activities for parents and grandparents and teachers and librarians to do with their kids, which is another great way to get people to come to your website and to capture data. Maybe you want people to subscribe to your blog so they can get, exclusive, free recipes, or they can get whatever it happens to be. They can get it for free from you, so that, again, you can build up your mailing list, so that you can reach out to them about your book, so that you can reach out to them about reviews and so forth. And perhaps you just want to get more interviews or speaking engagements or what have you. So if people hear you on, read a blog about you, and you could put at the bottom of the blog, hey, to interview so-and-so, or to book him for a speaking engagement, please contact blank. So these are all different suggested calls to actions that you can have. There are really a ton of different calls to actions, and it really depends on what you're trying to accomplish with the media exposure. And again, what you're trying to accomplish with the media exposure is predicated on your business model. I hope you found that pitching tutorial helpful. Thanks for watching. If you have additional questions, you can scan the QR code, or you can visit the website at strategiespr.com.